Welcome to Text Me Back, the sleepiest podcast there ever was. I'm sleepy.
And I'm also sleeping. I'm also under a weighted blanket, metaphorically. And then after the podcast is done, I'm going to be under one, literally.
That's what we like on this podcast.
Like.
I can fix her. I can fix her, sleepy edition. I can fix her, That's the title of my autobiography. It's about fiber.
Yeah. You're not going to want to miss it, folks.
Meagan, I have an announcement to make.
Go on.
Welcome to Text Me Back podcast, the only podcast that hasn't smoked weed for 25 years, because today is the 25th anniversary of the Kingdom implosion, which was the day that I got so high, I was scared to death for life.
Yes.
And I never did it again.
The last time, I don't know the exact date, but the last time I smoked weed was in 2007 at a Wu-Tang Clan concert. And I hadn't smoked weed in so long that I had sort of forgotten the general guardrails for doing so, you know? And one really, kids who are listening, please pay attention. This is important. One key mistake you might make as a rookie weed smoker is to smoke some weed and then be like, I am simply not high enough. I require more weed. No, you don't. What you need to do is wait 20 minutes and then reevaluate where you're at. You know what I mean?
Is that the one where you fell down?
Indeed. So what happened was I made that mistake. I said, I simply am not high enough. And by the way, I was with the Wizard. I was with Tyler at this Wu-Tang Clan concert. It was at Bumbershoot, of course.
Yes.
And Old Dirty Bastard had just died. So they were all screaming, scream so loud ODB can hear you. So to fracture the sky for ODB, and everyone was screaming. And then all of a sudden my vision started to get, you stand up too fast. It was like that, but I was just standing there and I was like, uh-oh. And down I went, timber. Fortunately, I fainted on a giant stuffed dog that somebody had won for their girlfriend at the Fun Forest, which still existed. And everyone was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. This is crazy. And then this other friend of ours, who's a wonderful hippie friend of ours, was like, eat this. And I was like, of course this hippie friend of ours would have the weed antidote. And I found out later it was just a Cliff Bar.
Yeah.
But I was like, it is the magic cure from ancient lands.
It's the lembas bread.
It is the lembas bread of her people that she brings to the Wu-Tang Clan concert. Anyways, so then my then boyfriend, now husband, and I go to the back of Memorial Stadium to be like, I guess I'm going to sit down for the rest of this. And then this very tall man walked in front of us. And I was like, God, that guy's tall. I wonder if he plays basketball. And I was like, that's offensive. Just because somebody's tall doesn't mean that they play basketball. Okay. Check your biases, ma'am. And then I looked at the man again. And by the way, he was wearing all denim coat, denim pants, Sean John brand. And he had a very small,
canceled.
Canceled. Oopsie daisy. And he had a very small head. And I looked at the man again and I was like, wait a minute. I'm not being offensive. That's Sean Kemp. The former Rain Man of the Seattle Supersonics. I was like, hang on. And I was still, of course, extremely stoned.
Yeah.
And I was like, but there was nothing I could do about it. Am I a huge Sean Kemp fan? Hell yeah. Would I have loved to talk to him? Absolutely. Was I capable of doing so in that condition? No, I was not. So instead, I just sat there and just enjoyed the reality that Sean Kemp was a mere 3 feet away from me enjoying this Wu-Tang Clan concert. And I leaned over to my husband, Adam, and I was like, that's Sean Kemp. And he was like, okay. Anyway, so then this kid walks by, and this thing happens sometimes when you're a little bit high on weed, where you feel like you can see the future, So I see this kid off to the right, and he's wearing, you'll never guess, a Seattle Supersonics number 40 jersey, Sean Kemp's number. He's wearing Sean Kemp's jersey. And I was like, this is about to be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Like I could see it in my mind's eye exactly how this interaction was going to go. So this kid who's like maybe 5 feet tall walks by Sean Kemp, who's 11 feet tall. and, you know, he just looks up because it's like just a really tall person, just the tallest person you've ever seen is standing there.
Yeah.
So the kid looks up and sees a very tall man. Then he sort of stops and looks up again. And it's starting to register to him that it's Sean Kemp. And I was like, Adam, check this out. This is about to be amazing. And the kid starts frantically pointing at his jersey. And he goes, Sean Kemp, you're Sean Kemp. You're Sean Kemp. And he's like, what's up, man? And he like goes to hug the kid. The kid disappears into the folds of Sean Kemp's denim on denim. And I was like, and I was crying. I was like, yeah, this is so beautiful. And the kid just goes, I just want you to know I love you, Sean Kemp. He goes, my parents gave me this jersey when I was a baby. Like instead of bringing him home in a baby blanket, they brought him home in the Sean Kemp jersey.
Stop.
And he's like, this jersey was my baby blanket, Sean Kemp. And I was like, yeah, 1,000%, dude, 1,000%. And Sean Kemp was like, oh man, thank you, little man. And it was like so beautiful. And I was like, I was crying. I felt like Wu-Tang Clan was crying. The kid was like really emotional. And I was like, what are the odds that there you are enjoying your life in your baby blanket Sean Kemp jersey and you run into Sean Kemp
Crazy.
While wearing it. And on top of that, I got to be there.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
Unfortunately, due to that story, I now believe in a living God.
Exactly. This is why I identify as an agnostic and not an atheist.
It's like
because of Sean Kemp. Anyway, so that's the pre-show amble.
Yep.
Shall we do the show amble?
Yeah, I like how I was bringing up my story of 25 years ago when they imploded the kingdom, and then it turned into somehow your story.
Yeah, well, I'm really interesting.
I know. Yours was better than mine. Mine was just, I went to a party that I wasn't cool enough to be at, and I smoked weed out of a bong.
And then, like, the earth exploded.
And then,
you know,
I felt that every step I took forward, I was stepping backward through time. And then I curled up in the fetal position on a love seat and slept until morning, woke up, walked over to a viewpoint in West Seattle and watched as the kingdom imploded.
Oh my God.
And then I said, never again. Never again.
Also, do you feel a little bit like, oh God, I'm going to be in trouble for admitting this? Like my parents are, I'm going to get beat grounded.
Absolutely.
for smoking weed in 2007.
Absolutely, Megan.
When I was 25.
1,000%. Yes. A legal substance in the state where I live that I don't even like or use.
I could be imprisoned at any time for this revelation. Okay, well, that's the show. We'll see you guys later.
No, we have so many good segments.
We have many things to discuss.
We've got a snake of the week, a really two hot snake of the weeks. Then we also have a brand new special segment that it's so good. I don't even know if I want to preview it.
I know. We are going to need a jingle for it though. So
put on your
just get ready
caps.
for that.
And then
giddy up, jingle horse. Pick up your songwriting pen.
That's right. And then we're going to have a special quick little pop in from our official Pete Hegseth Correspondent Rafil.
That's correct.
The very normal news / segment pubes that's been going on in the government this week,
called Oops, I added Jeffrey Goldberg to my Signal chat.
Megan.
And then discussed my war plans.
I do have to confess something.
Yes.
I added Jeffrey Goldberg to this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Jeffrey? But I just was about to discuss classified podcast information, and now I can't.
I won't tell anyone.
Why is Jeff Goldberg Fat Albert in this? Jeffrey? You good?
What's the plot of Fat Albert? It's just like there's one guy that's fat, and then he has other friends of different sizes.
Fat, and his friends are funky. You know what I mean? Because I think they made music, did they not?
Maybe. I know the one guy has a hat over his eyes.
Yes.
Did Bill Cosby invent Fat Albert or just like participate?
I believe he invented it.
Well,
And that's also very sad because he invented A Different World, one of the finest sitcoms of our time.
yeah.
You know?
I think you're allowed to separate the art from the artist if he's not in it.
Yeah, he's not really in it. Denise is in it for the first season, but then she left.
We're not transferring blame to Denise.
Created, produced, and hosted by comedian Bill Cosby. Fat Albert, we'll see you in hell.
Goodbye. I guess I'll go be the editor of the Atlantic. I guess I'll publish classified information. Hey, hey, hey.
Anyways, and with that, shall we start the show, Lindy? Snake of the week. Hit him with the jingle. I don't have access to the media board this week.
Snake of the week.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. It's time for Snake of the Week.
It is.
Which is also a normal news addendum. Snake of the Week,
Yes.
corrections.
Correct. Yes.
Meagan and I fucked up, and
We did.
in all seriousness, we've talked a lot about how to make this announcement to you all.
Yeah. It's just been really, really heavy on our hearts for upwards of 7 days.
Yeah. We've been thinking about it a lot and about, how we want to approach accountability and repair. And I guess the first step is to just be honest about our actions and how they have affected you. Pig buttworm should have been Snake of the Week.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are so sorry.
We are so sorry. And I would also just want to thank everyone for calling us in on this critical topic. We want to know more so we can do better.
Mm-hmm. It is a foundational ethos of this podcast that a worm is a snake. We've always said that, and we stand by that.
Yeah.
And yet, last week, when we were recording normal news, I brought pig butt worm in as normal news, and I don't have an excuse. I don't want to give you an excuse. All I can say is that I'm sorry. Pig butt worm should have been Snake of the Week, was Snake of the Week, and was robbed of that title. So we're here to make amends today.
Later today, we are going to be writing an apology on the Notes app and then posting that screen grab on all of our socials.
Yep.
And then we will be entering inpatient rehab to deal with this. This is very serious.
Yeah.
This is very serious. So what we really want to do is right now just say, pig butt worm, stay strong, queen.
Yeah.
Snake of the week, forever in our hearts and forever in our oceans.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, babe.
Babe. Keep shooting that green mucus cloud all around. Ma'am.
Name another snake that can do that.
I can't.
You can't.
I can't do it.
Meagan,
I'm not even gonna try.
You know how we're going to inpatient rehab? You know what snakes go to? Long, thin patient rehab.
Okay. That's Snake of the Week.
Snake of the week.
But don't think for 1 second that you're going to get away with just one Snake of the Week this week. Hell no. Because there's another one.
There's actually two more.
There's two more.
Yeah.
So when we say Snake of the Week, what we mean is snakes of the week.
All right. This snake, the next one, it's an important news story. Four thieves went into a gas station in Tennessee and they stole $400 in CBD oil in an armed robbery. And what were they armed with? Snakes. The men were wielding two snakes, and they went into the gas station and they went up to the gas station man and they said, They said, give me all your CBD oil. It helps me sleep. It helps me sleep.
The snake said that, or the man did?
It doesn't specify. So from The Guardian, so this is real. Two brothers working at the store when the robbery occurred said that they felt threatened by the 4 robbers they encountered, who had 2 snakes among them. That sounds like 2 of the robbers were snakes. The 4 Okay, here's a quote. They were just waving them around and putting them on the counter. One person brought in 1 snake first, and then after that, he brought in another snake. Like, okay.
He left and came back with another one?
I guess. And then the gas station man went on to say, I think they plan to successfully come here and rob the store. The snake is a weapon, you know. First of all, no, it's not. A snake is a friend, not a weapon. And if you look at Meagan,
I don't know. Let me just say something.
Yeah.
Some backwoods country lawyer, some tough on crime prosecutor is going to give those guys like a sentence enhancement for using this implicates criminal justice reform, because these guys are probably going to get another 15 years of jail time because it was an armed criminal action. You know what I mean?
Right. When actually what should happen is that the gas station guys should get arrested for not knowing the truth of snakes. Because if you look at
absolutely
the video still, these are obviously just cute little pythons, cute little like ball pythons. What are they going to do? Constrict your little finger until you say, ouch, here, take my CBD oil?
Like, they're just going to constrict before you can walk away from them at a normal pace?
It's not like these men came in here with a gaboon viper and tossed it on the counter.
It's not like that. It's not like they showed up with Freakaconda. Okay.
Exactly.
Some real firepower.
Arguably, even Freakaconda could not assault 2 human men fast enough and comprehensively enough to even qualify as a weapon. Like, look, if you brought a lion in there on a chain, now don't get any ideas.
People may have gotten this idea from a very significant piece of media called Law & Order SVU, where Big Boy was trading in exotics.
Yes.
You don't want to get involved with this. You're going to be eaten alive by 2 hyenas. Poor Captain Cragen is going to be rescuing a monkey out of a basketball. Stay away.
Speaking of corrections, I can't believe we didn't talk about Captain Cragen monkey basketball when we talked about the guys smuggling the turtles in his pants through the airport.
I can't believe it. It's a seminal piece of media. Captain Cragen rescuing that monkey out of a basketball. The monkey so grateful to Craigs that he hugs him gently around the neck. You think for 1 second you're going to put a monkey in a basketball? Think again, kid. You stay out of it. You stay out of the animal crime. Okay?
Yeah. So look, everyone's at fault. I need America's gas station attendants to do the work. Educate yourself on snakes. Go back to school after hours. Read a snake book, whatever you need to do. And then I need America's CBD thieves. Don't bring animals into this. Animals are our friends. Snakes are our brothers. And they don't want to get wrapped up in your life of crime. They're trying to live a humble life.
I have a couple follow-up questions, which is, how expensive is CBD oil? Surely it's not worth all this. And second of all, CBD oil? What is that going to do? Relieve your arthritis pain? Come on, son.
Maybe it'll relieve your arthritis pain in your little finger after a tiny little ball python constricts it. Wink.
Maybe that's why he needed it. Cute.
I think probably what happened is that they thought they could get the men to open the cash register using the snakes, and instead the men said no. And so then I think maybe the thieves just grabbed the little plastic case of CBD oil on the counter and ran out. That's my guess.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
As someone who's watched a lot of Law and Order, that's my extrapolation. But anyway, that's our second snake of the week. Is robbed at Fang Point, python wielding thieves snatch $400 in CBD oil from Tennessee gas station. It's on The Guardian. You can go read it if you want to read the whole article. We'll link to it in the show notes. And then our third snake of the week came from you, the listeners, in the form of the greatest voicemail I've ever heard.
It's so good. Thank you so much. I believe Pete from Brooklyn for sending in this beautiful tale. I say we just hit him with the snake. You know what I mean? Hit him with the snake of the week.
Not
They're
literally,
gonna love it.
Meagan.
Not
That's
literally,
what those
because we
thieves
don't we don't endorse snake-based crime. However, you are going to like this story because I laughed a lot.
And in this story, the snake was doing the crime, which we do endorse because we believe in autonomy and free will for snakes.
Yes.
Hey, it's Peter in Brooklyn, just calling with a snake story. My mother-in-law is 93 and she lives in Westchester, and 3 days of the week we have a home care person taking care of her, a woman who's from an Eastern European country. Let's call her Pam. And I got a text from Pam on Tuesday saying there was a snake in the house, which is not, a rare situation. It happens all the time. And I thought she was just kind of like, saying, isn't that funny? There's a snake in the house. And then she called, and I've never heard more terror in anyone's voice before in my life. She was crying. She thought the snake was going to kill my mother-in-law. So she had closed the door somehow to her bedroom, but the snake was banging its head against the door to get in and kill her, according to Pam. And then somehow at the next call, she had climbed into her own room and closed the door to secure herself against the banging snake. And then at the next call, she had jumped out of her window as I was making my way. It takes about an hour to get there from Brooklyn, up to try and deal with the snake. We called a local handyman who came and did actually get the snake out of the house, and it was a 5-foot rat snake. A rat snake is kind of an all-black snake. They're pretty harmless, but yeah, they do look scary, especially when they come out of a hole in the wall or something like that. They look like those Raiders of the Lost Ark snakes. Well, any snake does. Anyway, that's the scary snake story. Pam has since calmed down, and she went home, and I think she's prepared to come back. Love the show. Love you guys.
Peter, Pam's not coming back. Pam's gone. Pam's
Peter,
out.
Pam, she gone. Peter, she gone. And she's not coming back.
So many questions.
First of all, shout out to husbands. Shout out to husbands. Thank you, Peter, the husband, for writing in. Shout out to Pam for sharp thinking. She saw that scary ass snake and she activated. We love that. She's action oriented. Shout out to Pam.
She protected her charge, the 93-year-old
in-law,
and then she acted to save herself. Now, I do have a question. Several questions. One, there are no neighbors. You have to call Peter. You have to call Peter an hour away in Brooklyn. First of all, okay. Second of all, this happens all the time. Peter
what do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean all the time in Westchester? I guess I don't know anything about Westchester, but it's just like y'all have snakes up like that.
I guess I think of it as like an elegant suburb of New York City.
Yeah, it would be if someone was like, "Oh my God, my house is chock full of freaking snakes. I live in Bellevue." Like, what? Right. Bellevue? Snakes? What are you talking about? Also, can I say something? I get that. I know you snake lovers always say this, like, "Oh, they're not dangerous. Everything's fine." But a 5-foot snake, I don't care what his intentions are. It's about impact, man.
A 5-footer.
You frightened me with your length.
A 5-footer is prodigious. And look, it doesn't have venom. It's a rat snake. It's not going to constrict you. It just wants to eat rats, but it can bite you.
Yeah.
And a snake that big can give you probably like a snake infection.
I don't want that. I don't want any kind of an infection, let alone one given to me by a man from a classification called herpetology. And I think Pam would agree with me,
I know that Pam would agree. She showed me with her actions that she doesn't want any of that.
Also, I have another question, which is, handyman? You just called a handyman to deal with your snake problem? Is that permitted? Is
one of his handy duties? Is snake control?
Is that in his scope of work? What's happening here?
Do they not have animal control in Westchester?
Do they not?
Look, I'm not here to second guess Pam and Pete's choices.
No, me neither.
I worship the ground they walk on. I think they handled this beautifully.
Me too.
I want Pam to feel safe. I want her to feel like there's help closer by than an hour. And I want Pete to not have to drive an hour to watch someone else
or get on some sort of interminable railroad
Train?
to get
Yeah.
some sort of train. I agree with you. I think they did everything right. I think my ire is directed at the executives of Westchester County. Get it together. Too many snakes. And here's what I'd also say. There's a very good chance maybe they thought of animal control and just thought, when are those fuckers going to get here? Because the one and only time I had to deal with animal control was
That's right.
with Joel Kim Rooster, the rooster who was randomly dumped on a very urbane corner of Washington, D.C. And it was like 150 degrees that day. And animal control left Joel Kim Rooster's ass out there for 10 hours before they showed up with the net, with like a cartoon dog catcher net. And I was like, so maybe they were like, we don't have time for that.
That's right. Not after these Doge cuts to the Doge catcher. I want to say, if you want to hear that Joel Kim Rooster story, we'll link to it in the show notes. It's in a previous episode. And I also want to say that somehow, I don't know how the conversation took the shape that it took, because we didn't talk about the most important part, which is the snake refusing to read the room that Pam did not want to hang out, and then banging its head against the door to get to her. Sir?
Pam, listen, I don't want to freak you out, Pam, but I think you need a restraining order, girl. Yeah. This is not healthy. Okay. You don't need this in your life. He's not good for you. Yeah. It was, what it's giving? It's giving Mark Wahlberg in Fear, giving himself bruises, harming himself for Reese Witherspoon's love. We don't like to see that. This snake needs to be put on a 5150 hold, and he needs to get the psychiatric care that he so desperately needs. Pam, get a restraining order, girl.
Yeah.
Be careful.
And
banging his head.
Although, I just want to say we don't have proof that the snake wasn't trying to help. Maybe there was a carbon monoxide leak, and the snake could smell it with its special, extra senses, and it was trying to say tap 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 tap, ma'am.
Yeah, it was
ma'am.
Pam, you use peanut butter and she's allergic. Bang, 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 bang. So I don't know. Listen to your instincts, Pam.
Yep.
and the snake as well, maybe.
And I'd also like to clarify that we don't know anything about Peter from Brooklyn, but all men are husbands. just for the record.
Well, I figured he said in-law.
Oh, that's surely
right. That implicates some sort of spouse somewhere in the mix.
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
Unless it's like his brother's spouse's
that would be
mom. Peter, if that's the case, you're in too deep, sir.
You need to get an order of protection against this mother-in-law, Peter.
Pam should not be calling you Peter.
No.
But even if it wasn't an in-law, Peter's still somebody's husband as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
that's the lore of this show.
And that's Snake of the Week. I hope we made up for our absolutely horrifying lapse in judgment about PBW, Pig Butt Worm. And I hope you forgive us and grow with us going forward,
Yep. And that's
Snake of the Week.
And we will return shortly with our Pete Hegseth Correspondent in a segment we're calling Normal News. No segment pubes. No Snake of the Week. It's all of them. That's right. How you like that?
That's right.
Stay tuned.
Our next segment, it's called Segment Pubes. It's called Snake of the Week. It's called Dog Thoughts. it's all of our favorite segments. It's normal news. All of our favorite segments rolled into one. And here to help us unpack this monumentous week in the news is our Pete Hegseth Correspondent Rafil. Yay!
Hi, Rafil.
Hello. We had a napless toddler who was just like incredibly pissed off, and we don't have anyone to help.
I've got one of those too. Her name's Meagan.
Very
Oh.
relatable.
Are you
Zing.
going to put up with that? Or are
Yeah,
you going to
I am.
send drones?
I'm
Don't
attack
send
Lindy.
drones.
going to put up with it.
I live at a Saudi oil site, so you better not send drones.
You better not. It'll ruin the economy. Ugh.
You want to tell us what's going on with Pete Hegseth this week? Has he been doing anything interesting?
Basically, our top government boys are using Signal, a text messaging app that is, I guess of all of them, is the most private. It's like encrypted and stuff. So they started a Signal group chat called Houthis Small Group PC or something like that. And it had Tulsi Gabbard in it. It had Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, your
Nothing.
classmate and best friend Pete Hegseth from Princeton. It had, you may have heard of him, Vice President J.D. Vance was in this, and a few other people from the government. They also added somebody by the initials of G, which I think they thought was our U.S. trade representative, Jameson Greer, but who ended up being Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg. Oopsie poopsie. I think we can all agree, but we all make mistakes. And so this group chat goes on to discuss the ups and downs of life, as well as our plans to drop bombs on Yemen in like 2 days hence. And Jeffrey Goldberg, noted editor-in-chief of The Atlantic and not a member of Trump's cabinet, is just in this group chat as they lay out their plan. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Goldberg is just taking screen grabs of everything. And so now what the Trump administration is telling everyone is it's actually no big whoop. We didn't share any classified information. But Jeffrey Goldberg, please don't report on the parts that has anyone's names or any details about the strike. But don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But don't report on it. But it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
I mean, Pete Hegseth this week has continued to do what he's best at, which is to mount a muscular and virile defense of American values, of our delicious troops.
Mm-hmm.
Pete is very busy. I don't talk to him these days,
Aw.
but, you know, he's certainly not here with me now. Oh, that's some strange electronic. I don't know what that is. So
Rafil, are you okay?
yes,
Should we call someone?
not drones.
Well, Rafil, I think we got to the bottom of this. I think Pete Hegseth is doing a great job. Oh,
I agree.
Uh-oh.
Total agreement.
Raffle's signal is dropping. Raffle? There?
Rafil?
Hello?
Rafil! Rafil!
Well, he gone.
Rafil, is there anything you want to plug?
I would like to plug Pete Hegseth. He's good war boy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense now that you put it like that. Well, Rafil, good luck with whatever's going on in your apartment. I'm a little worried about you, but there's nothing I can do from over here.
Thanks, Raffle.
Thanks, Rafil.
Call me Jeffrey Goldberg when I'm leaving.
All right. Well, welcome back to Text Me Back podcast, the famous podcast. There's something that's been on my mind. I need to get something off my chest. And it's related to my home state of Washington State. And we're calling this segment 8th grade Washington State history requirement.
Yep.
Okay. Because you are not going to be able to pass it and graduate middle school unless you know this information. Okay.
No, you can't graduate from this podcast without this information.
No, you can't. Much like middle school, we are going to require all of you to hand draw a map of Washington State, and we're going to need you to mark all of the landmarks, both geographical and man-made. And you have to submit it before the end of the semester, or you will be held back, and you will be attending Washington Middle School 8th grade times 2, loser. Okay. No, but here's what's been bothering me actually ever since 8th grade Washington State history requirement. Why does Washington State name all of its shit that? Like, that, obviously that Mount Rainier is not what it was named when these fucking Europeans showed up. We know that. I don't need to tell you that. Okay. And there are some names in Washington State that have historically, that are like what they were when the Europeans showed up and ruined everyone's lives. But here's something that really fucking bugs me. Why do we call it Mount Rainier? You ever look that up to be like, who's Rainier even? Like, can he even stake a claim to the mountain? You want to know something about Rainier? Never stepped foot in what we now call Washington State. He never even saw that shit with his eyeballs, with his rotten French eyeballs. He never laid eyes on beautiful Mount Tahoma/Tacoma, depending on how you feel about it. Okay. He never saw it. His friend named it after him to be like, love you, boo. Named a mountain after you. And now we all just call it Mount Rainier. That's crazy, dog. That's crazy. Okay. And you want to know what else? Puget Sound. You want to know why they call it that?
The famous sound. The famous sound. That we all love.
I bet you're thinking, oh, before you even say it, Megan, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to find out all about this Puget. I'm sure he stepped foot in what we now call the Seattle area. Wrong. Puget never stepped foot in what we now call Seattle, Washington. And by the way, while I'm on the topic, why is it called Washington? There's already a Washington, and that guy was dead for like 50 years before Washington even became a state. So why is it called that? That's stupid. It's a dumb name.
And as we learned when we went to his house, he wasn't even that cool.
He wasn't even that cool.
He said, okay, I'm going to free all the enslaved people that I own and force to labor for me when I die, and I don't need anyone to do forced labor for me anymore.
Because I'll be dead.
Because I'll be dead. Oh, aren't I generous? And they literally at the museum are like, wow, a hero. Wow.
Woke king, George Washington.
Meanwhile, by the way, Martha Washington, she said, well, I'm not setting mine free.
And she could eat shit as well. She could eat shit as well. You know what I mean? So like, that's crazy.
Get this word out of my area.
Words up out of my area. Okay. So then I start to think, like last year when we were hanging out in Seattle, Washington, we were driving around and I was thinking about how much I hate this Mount Rainier Puget Sound situation. It pisses me off so bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was like, speaking of names I'm confused by, straight a Wanda Fuca. The fuck's up with that? Who is Wanda Fuca? Like, first you have me out here pronouncing French words. Okay. Now you're telling me a Spaniard was on the loose somewhere between Vancouver Island and the northern tip of Washington State. Is that what you're telling me? There was a Spaniard cruising around up there?
He paddled his canoe from España all the way around the bottom of Africa and then all the way through the Indian Ocean across the Pacific. And then he said, this is my strait. He said, hola, me llamo Juan de Fuca y quiero the strait of islands and water.
Is that what you're trying to tell me? Is that the claim that's being laid upon the table in this 8th grade classroom?
And
because I won't have it.
By the way, if you're not from Washington, the Strait of Juan de Fuca is a beautiful area made of islands outside of Seattle.
It's the most beautiful place on earth.
It is the most beautiful place on earth.
It really is.
Believe that the whole world. Well, I don't want them to know about it because, like, it's already cluttered enough. But
don't look it up. Don't worry. Actually, it's remote. You can't access it. It's fine. Anyway, so we're cruising around in your Hyundai, and I was like, I'm going to Google Wanda Fuca. Like, I need to know what's going on here. Okay, because like when was Spain in it? Why is Spain in this? You know. So I Google it, and you'll never guess what I've discovered about the Strait of goddamn Wanda Fuca. Not only did Wanda Fuca never, ever step foot either on the Washington or Canada side of the Strait of goddamn Wanda Fuca, It was named for him by the maritime fur trader Charles Barkley. I'm not even joking. The guy who discovered, I mean, he didn't discover it, but the guy who claims to have discovered the Strait of Juan de Fuca is actually named Charles Barkley. And you're telling me we're not going to call that shit the Strait of Charles Barkley? It's right there. Hello?
Hello?
Governor Bob Ferguson, you have the opportunity to do the funniest possible thing. Okay?
If we must name the strait after a white man, the man with the best possible claim is Chuck. Chuck B. Charles Barkley. Change the name. Beep, boop, boop. Bob Ferguson, Governor's Mansion 911.
That's his phone number. Look, we need to activate the Text Me Back podcast base. This cannot stand. We cannot continue to call the Strait of Juan de Fuca.
This is your field of research, so correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just drawing on my memory from when we made this discovery, which, by the way, if you've listened to this podcast and you know how we feel about Charles Barkley, imagine the screaming when Meagan said, by the way, who the fuck is Juan de Fuca, looks it up, finds out that actually the first white man in the strait was named Charles Barkley. The screaming
It was actually immeasurable by normal sound reading equipment. And in fact, we drove your Hyundai into the Strait of Juan de Fuca.
Yes, correct.
Upon making this discovery.
But I feel like part of, correct me if I'm wrong, do I remember that actually also on top of that also too, in addition, they're not even actually really totally sure who Juan de Fuca was? Like possibly not a real guy?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you. You will be passing 8th grade Washington State history requirement with flying colors. First of all, Juan de Fuca's birthday, June 10th, 1536. That's my birthday.
Wow, you look great.
I don't like that because he's my enemy. Okay, but isn't it just like a Gemini to name some shit after you that you've never even seen? You know? Okay, Juan. Anyway, so first of all, he's a Greek sailor who served Philip II of Spain. He is best known for his claim that he discovered the Strait of Juan de Fuca. But we know who first of all, we know who discovered it, and it was neither of you two guys. Yeah. Because there were already people there. Okay. But second of all, if we're gonna hand it to a European, we're handing it to Charles Barkley.
Yeah,
okay.
Come on.
Also, Juan de Fuca is a Hispanicization of the Greek name Ioannis Phocas. Or Latinized as Johannes Phocas.
Sorry, his name is Josh Fuckass.
His name is John Fucker, and we named a strait after him, and he didn't even discover it. Okay. So he was apparently a real guy, but he might have been a liar and a grifter.
Yeah.
And tricked Philip II into thinking he had discovered something that he didn't. And by the way, apparently we named a pillar after him at Cape Flattery. Stop naming stuff after John Fucker. He doesn't deserve it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. Give more credit to Charles Barkley. Less credit to John Fucker.
So for what it's worth, here's what they say. Here's what they're saying. Just to clear up, sorry, there's been some confusion in the history lesson today, and I apologize, but this will be on the final, so make sure you get it right. They claim that Johannes Fucker sailed to this strait in between Vancouver Island and the Olympic Peninsula in 1592 to seek some other strait that doesn't exist. The fabled Strait of Anian. Apparently doesn't exist. Not real. However, English explorer and exceptional basketball player Charles Barkley sailed to this waterway in 1787.
In search of right guard sports stick.
Exactly. And big soap that doesn't get lost in your body. Yes.
And Manifest Destiny.
Correct. That was in 1787. when Charles Barkley showed up.
Okay, so they
Charles
didn't know each
Barkley.
other. So
No.
okay.
So then Charles Barkley was like, I feel like I heard about this. I heard Johannes Fucker found it. Let's name it after him. And so the deed was done. So Charles Barkley now is maybe canceled.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, quick reframe. So first of all, I didn't know the dates because I need to do a little more studying before my exam. I thought you were saying that Johann Fuckass was a sailor on Charles Barkley's ship, and then Charles Barkley was such a freaking good guy. He did him a solid. He was like, "You're my favorite sailor."
No. Johannes Fucko had been dead for like 100 years before Charles Barkley showed up.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, but how about this? Maybe Charles Barkley was like, I would name this straight after myself, but I only want things named after me that are LBGTQ because I'm an ally.
And this waterway is straight.
Boo. He said, go ahead and name the ally of Charles Barkley after me. But the straight of Wanda Fuckass, give that to
you know who. So look, if you want to pass 8th grade, you have to know who really discovered the waterway in between Vancouver Island and the Olympic Peninsula. It wasn't Juan de Fuca. I think he was a liar, and I think he just wanted some galleons from frickin' Philip II.
Mm-hmm.
It was Charles Barkley, baby. And we have, as Americans, have the chance to do the greatest possible thing and name a water of the United States, also known as a WOTUS, after one of the great explorers /
power forwards
in American / English history. It's the Strait of Charles Barkley. Let's right a historic wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you. Make sure you put that in your final essay or you will fail. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, if you know what the actual, indigenous name for the Strait of Juan de Fuca is, let us know. I'd love to know. I'm curious. I wonder what Canada calls it. I wonder if they call it something else.
Oh, God, if they call it Juan de Fuca, I'll lose my mind.
Come on,
they
Canada.
Can't be doing this. All Wikipedia says is part of the Salish Sea, which feels closer to what it's actually called, but who could say? So, write in. Let us know. I will be calling it the Barkley Strait until this is resolved.
And maybe forever.
And I wish you the best of luck on your final. Thanks. Be right back when we end the show.
Goodbye. Well, Lindy, Hoyle, Meagan.
We did it again. Problem solved.
Dude, problem solved. And if Donald Trump can wave his magic wand and say it's Gulf of America, surely we, the people, can say it's the Strait of Charles Barkley. So
it's the Strait of Charles Barkley.
Get on it. Anyway, not to relitigate that.
But maybe we should.
This was a really good episode, Megs.
No, yeah, for sure. As per usual.
As per usual. I think they get better and better every week. I think we should keep going. I think we should do another one. I think we should do another one next week.
You want to know what the top way to get us to keep doing them is?
What's that, Megan?
Subscribe to the Patreon, folks. Patreon.com/textmebackpod. It requires U.S. currency to make this podcast.
Yep.
And we require it. So if you could support our show, that'd be so tight. I love that.
Here's an idea. Share it with your group chat.
Oh, be like, classified info girlies. New podcast just dropped from the CIA.
I can't believe that Goldberg leaving that group chat. Come on, man.
I know, what a waste.
What happened to journalists wanting to get the ultimate scoop? I thought that was the whole point of your job.
My friend Shannon accidentally said Jeff Goldblum instead of Jeff Goldberg. And I've, one, been laughing about that for 48 hours. And two, I like to think of it that way. Yeah. It's more fun that way. If you allow your mind to accept that it was Jeff Goldblum who received military secrets, it makes life a lot more palatable.
And I think Jeff Goldblum would have stayed in the group chat.
I think so too.
I kept taking the screen grabs.
I agree.
Also, I don't have a big enough understanding of geopolitics to know what anything means or what anything is for. But I feel like if I'd gotten that advanced information, I might have given Yemen a call and said, hey, some of your guys are going to get blown up.
No, Jeffrey Goldberg supports the Houthis getting wrecked. So he was not going to do that.
Well, okay.
So, but I too don't know what I'm talking about. So don't write in. I'm just saying what
Don't write in,
please.
Don't write in. But I think I personally have if I have advance notice of people getting blown up, I'm going to tell them policy.
Yeah, I think that's a good policy. If I get swept up in a classified group chat and I discover, I discover some military secrets, I will not be discreet about that. I will send it out publicly. You have my word.
You know what I would do if I got added to the group chat is I would just text the same stuff that I text to my regular group chat. Here's a link to, it's a silver necklace with a big pendant, like maybe like a rapper would wear, but it's Garfield. And then I would say, should I buy this?
Yeah. And J.D. Vance would respond with, I will send prayers for victory. And that's how you should buy it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And who else is in there? Who's like the coolest one in there? Pick one.
Stephen Miller.
Yeah. Stephen Miller would say, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen Miller would say, I hate Mondays.
Ugh.
I just think that'd be funny.
I feel sick.
I would love to just use it like my regular group chat.
What else you got? I heard you have a special announcement, Lindy.
I have a special announcement. The beloved Text Me Back Czar of Sound Force.
Ever heard of it?
Professor Dr. Chief Ahamefule Oluo has released a new musical album. If you like the interstitial music and the theme song and several of our famous jingles on this show, you're going to love this album. It's called The Things Around Us. It is the soundtrack to Ahamefule's new stage show, which is also called The Things Around Us. And first of all, you can see, if you're in Seattle, you can go see The Things Around Us April 24th through the 27th and May 1st through the 4th, 2025.
Nice.
At Broadway Performance Hall presented by Intiman Theater. I will put a link to tickets in the show notes. The show is insane. Aham tells stories and then also creates this musical suite all by himself using loopers and pedals and clarinets and trumpets and household objects, and it's very crazy. And then if you're like, what would that sound like? Well, guess what? The album's out. And you can buy it. It's on Bandcamp.
You don't have to wonder for another second of your life.
Go buy it. It's the Czar of Sound Force, perhaps best known as the Text Me Back Czar of Sound Force, Ahamefule Oluo's new album, The Things Around Us. It's on Bandcamp. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. And as a little special tasty treat, we're going to go out on the title track from The Things Around Us. It's called The Things Around Us by Ahamefule Oluo. So I hope you enjoy it. And
enjoy, bitch.
Enjoy, bitch. And with that, we give you a